2/3 of Americans in exit polls say that they don't think you should run for re-election. What is your message to them, and how does that factor into your final decision about whether or not to run for re-election?
It doesn't.
What's your message to them? To those 2/3 of Americans?
Watch me.
Okay, one more.
Come on. Hey there, guys. Welcome to the channel. So there's been another pretty devastating round of polling done by liberal media outlets. It's not being done by conservative outlets. It's not being done by Fox or anyone else. It's being done by liberal media outlets, and it has absolutely got people shook. Biden, unless something incredibly groundbreaking happens, he's in a ton of trouble, and it's starting to look like there is probably no possible way for him to win a free and fair election. And the media and the Democrats, they see it, and they're losing their minds, man. I'm going to show you all that, but before I do, guys, thank you so much to everyone that's been subscribing and leaving such great comments. Really appreciate the support. If you haven't already, help us to continue to grow. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, most importantly, share the channel. So what the polls are showing more and more each time they run them is that the multiple persecutions against Donald Trump, they're doing the opposite of hurting him. And these polls, you know, they're different than in the past because some of them are actually asking really thoughtful questions, and they're finding things like people largely believe that, you know, we have less of a chance of actually going to war under another Trump presidency, which makes complete and total sense if you're paying attention to anything. They also, you know, they show a couple things that I think are really going to be the daggers for the Democrats. They show that Trump's widest margin is on the economy. And that is bad, bad news for the left. And they actually show them, this is an interesting one, they show them winning not just the electoral vote, but the popular vote as well. Now, obviously, it's very, very early, and they're just polls. But no matter which way you look at it, it's pretty damaging stuff. And let's take a look at just how the media is handling this.
Today marks exactly 1 year from the 2024 presidential election and what could end up being a rematch between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Our new CBS News poll shows Biden continues to trail Donald Trump in that possible head-to-head. He is now down 3 points. For more on why, we go to Anthony Salvanto. Good morning to you, Anthony.
Good morning, Margaret. To understand those numbers, we wanted to look at views about both today and the future. So first, the number of Americans who think that things are going badly in the country today has hit its high for the year. So you might expect any incumbent to be down as Biden is. But then look at these positive views of what people think will happen for them financially if Donald Trump wins. Way more voters think they'd be better off. And Biden, for his part, hasn't fully convinced as many Democrats that he'd help them as the middle class still reels from inflation. Then let's look overseas. There's more voters, we find, who think that it's Trump that would keep the U.S. out of a war if he wins. And that's driven by a lot of Republican unity on that idea. Let's look at Israel in particular. Americans sympathize with the Israeli people. Most Democrats think that Biden would show the right amount of support, but Democrats are more divided over military aid to Israel specifically. Margaret?
Anthony, thank you.
Yeah, so, I mean, there you have it. I mean, no matter how the various propagandists, they try to manipulate it, this is bad. This is bad for the ruling party. You know, they're losing on foreign policy. They're losing on the economy. They're losing on basically every measurable and important metric. They're getting absolutely crushed. And honestly, you know, of course, this is the case. Everything that the man has done, everything that he has said, everything that he has even been allowed to think has been a complete and total disaster. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. It has been a disaster. So obviously, you know, hearing what you've just heard, you'd imagine that the left, they've got to be completely losing their minds, right? Trying to explain it, trying to talk their way out of it, trying to put it on white supremacy or whatever, and trying to stop what looks like the inevitable from happening. Just look at these guys.
You both go. Senator Blumenthal, I have to ask about some new polling that is a big warning sign for your fellow Democrat in the White House. The New York Times and Siena College, it shows that Donald Trump is leading in Nevada, Georgia, Arizona, and Michigan, tight races in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. How worried are you about the president's reelection campaign?
I was
concerned before these polls, and I'm concerned now. These presidential races over the last couple of terms have been very tight. No one is going to have a runaway election here. It's going to take a lot of hard work, concentration, resources, and so we have our work cut out for us.
I will tell you, this is the first time, Jen, that I have felt like the 2024 election is in great trouble for the president and for our Democratic control, which is essential to moving forward.
This is probably going to lead to a lot of Democrats increasing the chatter that Joe Biden should step aside and make room for another Democrat.
And I think the problem that Democrats have is they don't know who that Democrat would be right now. I don't think that people look at Kamala Harris and feel like she is ready to take that step forward. They look across the rest of the party, governors, senators, mayors, House members, and they're struggling to figure out who they could put up if it's not Joe Biden. And so I think the reality is Democrats are probably going to run Joe Biden.
Are we operating in two worlds where there's sort of Donald Trump and what he's doing and Congress and what they're doing? Or are the two going to come together at some point and show voters what this complete dysfunction of the Republican Party looks like right now? Donald Trump and his legal travails and Congress and its, I don't know, every kind of travails.
I think that will happen, Ali. And one of the things that I think is clear here is that most voters have paid no or little attention to Donald Trump's legal problems. That will change when we get criminal trials, and especially if and when we get convictions. And at the same time, while lots will happen and change over the course of the next year, when we get down to two choices and we have one presidential candidate who is for a complete Muslim ban, who has supported and lunched with Nazis or neo-Nazis, and who has criminal convictions, and we have issues like the post-Dobbs world and abortion, as you were just discussing with David Pepper, that will reemerge when we see clear choices. I think we'll find a different dynamic. But that's not to sugarcoat a series of polls that show that for reasons that we will have to explore for many years, a president who's had astonishing success in many areas, including the economy, been as masterful as possible in foreign policy, even as the world is falling apart, has such low standing with the public. And that includes on empathy and on personal likability, which is really his greatest strength.
So yeah, there you have that. Can you guys believe these people? I mean, they truly believe. This is why they tell people not to get high on your own supply. These people truly believe that Joe Biden is A, likable, and B, he's had tremendous success, especially this last moron, dude. He says he's been as masterful as he could on foreign policy. What planet do these people freaking live on? His handling of Afghanistan alone has led to probably most of the world literally being on the brink of a nuclear freaking war. These people are insane. They can't possibly believe the stuff that they're trying to sell us. But I mean, honestly, even the most mushy brain among their viewers have got to believe that these people are crazy, that they're insane. They can't believe this stuff. They're not living in reality. But I saved probably the very, very best take for last. So Dana Bash on CNN, she actually points out something really, really interesting. In the states that are less white, I guess we'll call them, Joe's getting crushed. He's doing far better in states that are more white. I don't know why that is, but I can tell you that is a loud message that they're going to ignore, but that is a loud message. Listen to them dancing around this stuff.
Congresswoman Crockett, Karen just talked about a warning sign, warning signs across the board, but particularly when it comes to people of color. The New York Times, in the write about it, says, in a remarkable sign of a gradual racial realignment between the two parties, the more diverse the swing state, the farther Mr. Biden was behind. And he led only in the whitest of six.
Yeah, no, it's really scary for me. I'm glad that Karen, the expert, is not as scared because here's the deal. Perception is reality. And so when you look at the data that was provided in this poll, it talks about how people feel. And when people decide whether they're going to the poll or whether they're not going to the poll, it's all about how you feel in that moment. And so while the facts may not align with their feelings are dictating their reality. Their reality is that they said that they feel better or they felt better when Trump was in office. But we've been trying to push back. We've got some very popular African-American artists that are out here saying things like, oh, I got checks when Trump was in office. I want those checks again, not understanding that that really came from Congress. So we've got a couple of things, the perception issue, and then we also have an issue as it relates to civics in this country and people not understanding exactly how any of this works. People have to recognize that the world has changed. And that's the part that no one really is factoring in, is that we did not have a pandemic known as the coronavirus that existed when Trump first swore in. So yes, absolutely, gas prices were in a better situation, but also people understanding that bad policy takes a little while to go into effect. And honestly, that's what we're seeing. It wasn't better for the American people that the rich folk got the tax breaks. It would have been a lot better if those that are struggling every day got them, or the child tax credit that is going away, or the fact that people are upset with the president right now as it relates to Israel. But when you look at the package that was passed by MAGA Mike, that was pushed out by the Republicans, what did that package do? It defunded American workers, saying we're going to take money back from the IRS. And it also made sure that Israel got money and there was nothing for the Palestinians.
Come on. What do you even say to that? I mean, listen to what she's a professional congressional race baiter. Listen to what she really says. She says black people are just too emotional, that they don't understand things, that they're just not smart enough to understand civics. And they're not giving Congress their due for everything they've done. Can you imagine if a Republican or any white person went on TV and said something like that? It would never happen. I mean, they'd pull the plug. You know, one thing she did mention, I think that she actually nailed, is that bad policy takes a little while to show its effects. Turns out she's 100% right. And it turns out that little while is right around 3 years. But where she's wrong is these people are not stupid. They are the ones watching their grocery bills grow and watching their real wages shrink. They're the ones paying an extra $700-800 a month just into thin air. That is not emotion. That's math. That is all that is. Honestly, here's where I think that this is going. I think we're headed for an absolute landslide disaster for Democrats. Unless something seriously unforeseen happens, one thing that, really will be interesting to see is, what happens if Trump really is convicted in one of these 4 witch hunts? I don't think it's going to happen, but it could. Will that give him another boost, or will that actually have an effect on people's emotions? Like Miss Crockett says, it's all about emotion. But anyway, that's just my take, guys. Let me know in your comments, man, what you guys think. And if you haven't already, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. We'll see you in the next one.